coordinated effort din. So we started in 2017
Yes.
after the 2016 elections because there was an observation in the civil society na malaking impact ng fake news, misinformation at disinformation po sa paggawa at pagkilatis at yung pag-decide po natin sa mga pang-araw-araw na issues. So we decided as a group of volunteers and civil society members na gawa tayo ng Fact Check Philippines. And then what happened was that at first we were just a very small group. In fact, we were one of the first organizations talaga to establish fact checking in the Philippines because unlike in the United States na 2013 pa lang or 2010 meron na po silang fact checking organizations at efforts. And this was very important then for them during very big political events because dun po talaga kumakalat yung fake news. So we saw the culmination of of those efforts and them being able to at least know about the truth at marami po yung nag-wake up. So I guess in our experience, in the local experience, we had to first organize communities kasi yun po talaga yung thing dito sa Philippines. So we worked with different organizations like the church. There are some parishes who asked us for help to help train their young students.
Okay.
Tapos pati yung mga priests nila. Then we also coordinated with universities, with schools kasi doon po talaga yung youth. They're very active in volunteering with us. So but because it's the pandemic, all of our efforts have been online.
Yes.
And
but
actually,
very important, no? But very important.
Kasi akala po namin, Sir Noel, when we go online, nawawala na po yung engagement kasi we don't go to our communities anymore. But in reality, mas dumami po siya. Because people are concerned about their health, they're concerned about what they will do every day. So they report, and as of like October will end already and we're reaching almost 700 to 800 reports of fake news. So this was like a 1,000% increase from last year. So I think people are concerned kahit online po tayo.
And the hope now is that we grow your audience and we grow your supporters because we all should be truth seekers and truth tellers, diba? So, pero ganito, the common goal you said was to aid in combating fake news and misinformation. And most of them really, well, they come from different sources, no? Parang, so you said it's a country's first step.
Collective fear din po kami. Now, what if babardahin kami ng mga trolls? And I think in our past experience, nangyayari po siya. Every time that we fact-check, we were called biased. But recently, when we fact-check materials, for example, in 2020, there was this fake news circulating around about Senator Bongo. So we were also shocked na, totoo ba to? Like, you would tweet this? And then when we researched about it, our volunteers researched about it, hindi naman pala totoo. And then when we released that, that's when people started realizing na yung mga ibang fact checks namin pala in the past were really objective. Kasi hindi pwede na like even our volunteers have their own political views kasi person naman sila. Yeah. But we make sure that regardless of what we believe in as an organization, as volunteers, we fact check. And then recently may mga fake news about other political candidates. I won't mention. Tapos we were celebrated for that kasi na-realize naman pala hindi naman pala biased yung fact-checking. And when we talk about the truth, wala naman siyang bias to a certain political camp.
That's true, no? Yes. We have to explain that kasi parang ang perception is nabablur yung katotohanan. Pero yung katotohanan ay katotohanan at kailangan palabasin. Pero pag inuulit-ulit kasi yung kasinungalingan, doon nagkakaroon ng problema. So, tell us your process of fact-checking. Paano nangyayari yan? Does someone report to you first or you spot it yourself? So, what's the process?
There is a two-way process po. There are volunteers talaga na active po talaga araw-araw. Let's say they are on Facebook and they might identify something that's circulating around. So they report it to us as soon as possible. So that is more of an internal thing as an organization kasi there are days that we don't get reports at all, which was last year. So we had to actively find kung may nagsa-circulate kasi minsan walang nagpa-fact check. But I think right now, yung other method po kasi namin, that was really what we were surprised. Dumami yung mga nagre-report ng fake news, especially when the vaccination issue came up. A lot of people especially yung mga segments ng population around 40 to 50 years old, they really want to know kung totoo ba ito yung kumakalat na may microchip na yung vaccines, which
Yeah.
we fact-checked in February 2021.
Correct.
So that's yung other avenue namin for these people who are concerned na hindi naman volunteers namin. They send it to our Facebook inbox, and then we ask them a set of questions, if it's true, if it's misleading, or if it's false. And then we ask them if they have sources or reasons to why they think it's untrue or not or misleading. Tapos that's when we sift through all of that information kasi minsan po for example, may mga reports na magre-report 10 different people pero isang fake news po siya.
Yes.
So doon po namin sinisif, and then that's when we look at the sources or dinadagdagan namin ng sources, or we also contact po experts, like for example, experts in the medical community, experts in the historical aspect of our country, tapos yung mga experts din po sa law at mga maritime conflict. Kasi yun po yung hindi po namin, we're not an academe, we're not also political experts, we're just ordinary citizens. So we ask help from them, and natutuwa kami kasi they respond enthusiastically and they're fine with their needs, including it being included in the card or in the report. So ayun,
they lend their expertise, they lend their names, no? Para yun, ang maganda yun, no? So two ways again, amongst you fact check. Pero paano yan? Parang talagang nakaabang yung mga tao nyo? Do you pay them? Paano yan? Parang meron bang reward? Yan, parang, ito, ganitong amount or gift certificate for every fact-checking. Wala yung ganyan.
Wala po. Purely volunteer lang po siya. Kasi our volunteers also, most of them are students, most of them are campus journalists. Tapos, concerned din po sila sa mga kumakalat. And that's why kahit po wala pong vouchers, wala pong bayad or anything, as long as they're doing it for the truth, they're there po.
And then second, people can just bring out something, flag a certain quote probably or a certain information, then they will get parang a response, or parang call a friend kayo, parang ganon. So what's the line like? It's Facebook Fact Check Philippines. So we can always go there. Okay. So that's a whole process. According to your data, normally or usually, where do these fake news come from? Meron bang pattern?
Yung pattern po namin, Sir Noel, for September and October, because we know that September was Martial Law Remembrance Month. So we received like hundreds of reports that are related to martial law. And we did around 60 fact-checking reports on that. So, yung 60 fact-checking reports,
hirap yan. Okay.
And then, but also, yung isa po namin na notice frequently, aside from martial law reports, we also receive reports that most of the fake news po na nire-report po ng mga audiences at yung mga tumutulong po sa amin na mag-fact-check are fake news about Vice President Leni Robredo. Parang may disproportionate amount po siya based on the data. For example, for the month of October, we received around like 30 fact-check requests for that, and we did around 5 to 10 cards just on Vice President Leni Robredo. Tapos, yung nilalaman po ng fake news niya po usually are statements. Statements po na hindi niya po sinabi.
You're muted. Okay, nawala ka for a while. Ayan, okay, better.
Okay pa. Statements po na hindi niya po sinabi, or misleading, wala po siyang context.
Yes. Okay.
So, yun po, sir. And then, when the pandemic struck, of course, dumami po yung fact-checking namin with regards to vaccination. So, chunk of the fact-checking that we did from January until May was about vaccinations. And then we were surprised after that medyo kumaunti na po siya. And most of the information were about like vaccines na may microchips, vaccines na nagkakos daw ng different health conditions. So these were things po pala na hindi po namin nakikita minsan on our timelines. But these are things that people report sa amin on our inbox kasi sinispread po siya through Messenger. So that's a new insidious way of spreading around fake news through inbox.
That's a nice thing. But there's no accountability? Like you cannot track those people who like report or do messenger blast? Ganun ba 'yon?
Yung ito po yung interesting po Sir Noel kasi yung mga nagsi-share po nito are often ako kahit personally po I see this in my family group chats. So, and then the people who report in our Fact Check Philippines are actually people na let's say na may pamilya, tas na-receive lang po nila sa Messenger. So they take a picture of it. And nagugulat po kami Sir Noel because when we research it, some of these fake news about vaccines don't come from the Philippines. They come from let's say United States kasi so United States, they've already fact-checked this or it's already spreading or nasa YouTube siya at na-fact-check na po ng ibang United States organization. So I think hindi lang po siya problem sa atin. We also get to import all of the fake news from let's say about vaccines from the US. So insidious way po siya. Actually may mga reports din po kami na nagsasabi po na for this week po we received 2 fact check requests about hindi na lang po ako mag-name drop but certain political candidates po na nagbabayad daw po ng certain individuals na para manira o para ma-promote. So for us, mahirap po siyang i-fact check kasi private po siya, hindi po siya like public yung may nag-post sa Facebook and we can demand accountability. But still, we found a way to fact check it. We called the people who are involved in these political camps and we confirmed it with them. Tapos sabi po nila wala po siyang katotohanan. So, ayun, we fact-check it saying na hindi naman to totoo.
Ano yun? Parang barangay captain ka nangyayari tapos yung nag-aaway, the warring people, ikaw yung tagapamagitan and you're able to like make them talk and then may mag-agree na oo, nagkamali ako or sinadya. May umaamin bang nagkalat ng fake news? Kasi even Mocha cannot or will not ever admit na oo, deliberately ginawa ko to. Magsasorry siguro na na-post or may nasaktan pero hindi inaako, di ba? Na oo, deliberate or oo, mali yung ginawa ko.
Opo. So far, based on our experience po as an organization, sadly and unfortunately, people who spread this disinformation at fake news, they don't apologize.
Yeah.
Maybe po kasi, Sir Noel, some of these or most of these people na we get reports from, they get it from their families or friends na nagpo-post po nito and there is a certain form of nahihiya po sila na tanggapin na fake news po siya. At nakikita po ng volunteers po namin sa online discussions that there are people when they are called out for fake news, nahihirapan po sila na mag-agree. So I think wala pa po so far, even from the people that we fact-check or people that we engaged with, wala pa pong nagsasorry or umaamin na oo.
Albert, magandang point yan. So how do we deal with those na nagpo-propagate ng lies? Tapos nun, alam mo na, nahuli na or nasabihan na oo, mali ang sinabi mo. What do you advise them or how do we deal with them? Para, alam mo naman yung Filipino psyche na ayaw na napapahiya. Oo, alam mong mali yung nasabi mo, pero yung paraan, kahit tama yung sinasabi mo, yung paraan ng pagkasabi, parang ayaw mo silang napapahiya. So how do you like do it more, I guess, sensitively? So that you may be able to like enlighten them more? Kasi yun yung call ngayon, yun yung high ground na sinasabi, pero ang hirap itawid.
In our case po, Sir Noel, what we do in Fact Check Philippines, kapag gumagawa po kami ng fact check reports, we now include po a reminder for everyone to verify po information before they share it, before they comment on it, before they like it. Because I think that yung people po na feel po nila hindi po sila nagkakalat ng fake news, we also have some instances po na nabibiktima po sila. So I think from Fact Check Philippines, that's what we do, just a reminder. And I think what we also do as an organization is that we don't direct the fact check to the ordinary people na nagkakalat po nito kasi baka hindi rin po sila aware.
It should be the source, diba? It should be the source of napuntahan nyo na ba yon? You keep on going to the source of the information, the misinformation.
Based po on our experience and the data that we collect po from Fact Check Philippines, we can't like determine po isang source, because what we instead observe po is that, for example, may magre-report po na is totoo po ba to? Like, this is a recent fact check and we've already fact checked this po, that mainstream media organizations did not report the International Monetary Fund recovery report. Tas tinatawagan po nila yung media ng different names. So what we did was that we looked up who was sharing this, kasi medyo impossible lang na isa lang yung nag-share. And then when we looked it up, there were certain influencers, bloggers, certain pages po na may be politically motivated, kasi may mga pangalan po ng politicians po doon. So when we look up a certain fake news through the help of our tools like image searches, like yung pag-search po ng certain keywords and terms, nakikita po namin. So may coordinated effort. Sometimes we get as few as 5 to 10 pages, but there are cases na there are 50 to 70 accounts repeating the same claim. Tapos minsan hindi naman po magkatugma yung sinusulat po na statement or caption, pero magkapareho po sila. So parang kami, ano ba to? Coordinated ba to? Or parang nagkatugma lang? Or may group chat sila na ito yung ipapalabas natin at this point in time. So meron po siyang coordination po na ganun. And kasi iba-iba naman po yung nature ng mga fake news po na lumalabas. So iba-iba rin po yung, let's say, nature ng pages at mga vloggers na kumakalat po nito. Pero once that we identify them, may similarity po sila. Some of them might be politically motivated.
Gusto ko yan. So, they may be politically motivated, and normally parang meron talagang inaatake na politician na hindi nila kapanalig. Parang ganon, di ba? Ano pa yung iba? Paano na natin malalaman na fake news to?
Okay pa. For fact-checking po, the first thing that we need to do po kasi, of course, the first thing that we need to do is to identify po yung source. Sino po yung nagsabi? Ano po yung page na nag-release po nito? Because there are information available po sa TikTok, sa YouTube, and just because it's available on those platforms, we think na legitimate po siya. So we need to look at who published it or who authored it. So if the second step that we do po is look into who is behind it. So pinsan po kapag nasa mainstream media po tayo, kapag nasa articles, we see the author. We see the organization involved. But in the case of fake news po and misinformation distribution, wala po siya. At very general po minsan yung mga pangalan, yung mga involved po doon.
At yung mga references, wala. Very vague, no? Kung hindi mapapangatawanan yon, parang magda-doubt ka na talaga. What else? Ano pa yung parang, ako, di ba, pag mali-mali yung grammar, isa rin yun, di ba?
Possible din po iyon kasi there are sometimes some disinformation, misinformation at fake news na dahil yung grammatical structure niyo po hindi po maayos, people are misled to think na one thing is like this and like that. Yung isa po dito is yung visual naman po ito, and this was like for Miss Tony Gonzaga, na biktima po siya ng fake news kasi lumipat daw po siya ng network, ganyan. So, in that case po, hindi po siya grammar, but more on visuals po siya. Pinaltan po yung logo na nasa likod yan, ng different logo. And people were made to believe that that news was true. But when we fact-checked it po, it was from a satirical website. So, I guess po,
baka si Tom yan kasi biktima rin ng fake news.
So yung feel ko po from our perspective din po as an organization, habang tayo po nagmamature po tayo and we know what fake news is. Yung mga gumagawa po ng fake news, sagiging very smart din po sila sa pag-create po ng bagong fake news. So, when it comes to images, I think it's important to also, again, consult yung mga news organizations, yung mga experts. at yung mga official pages or accounts po ng people involved para malaman po natin if totoo po yung picture. Kasi yun po.
Talking about pictures now, enough with the Tony Gonzaga grammar, pero yun na nga, parang sometimes deliberate na yun, no? Pero yung pictures, for example, may copyright yung ibang pictures, no? But minamanipulate pa rin yan. Pero wala tayong naririnig na, uy, umaangal na ginagamit brazenly yung mga pictures na yon for other purposes. Paano yon?
For that case po kasi, what Fact Check Philippines can only do is to fact check. And kasi we can't really we can't really file cases against the person who did that kasi parang yung parties involved, iba din po siya. So yung
pero Albert, sa tingin ko, ultimately, magkakaroon na rin kayo ng legal counsel that eventually meron kayong ganung board who can, yun, nakikita mo yan na movement yun to the future na pwedeng kayo mismo yung mag-file kasi may mali or magdudulog sa NBI.
That's a very good question po, Sir Noel. So what Fact Check Philippines is doing right now is that we are in talks, we are in consultation with different groups na part din po ng communities po namin to start groups or like a bigger group for against disinformation.
Yes.
Kasi yung stand po namin so far is from the Fact Check Philippines, sa amin lang po ito, individual stand po namin, is to make platforms po accountable and make the regulations a lot more targetive sa mga nangyayari.
Yes.
Because there are yung algorithm po ng social media platforms po natin, it needs to be revisited kasi yun po talaga yung reason bakit siya kumakalat ng mabilis. Yes. So from our end po, we don't want to as much as we want to regulate fake news, we don't stand po for government censorship or government laws kasi medyo mahirap din po siya eh. What if yung sino ba magde-determine ng fake news at disinformation? So from our case po, kasi we are somewhat a media organization then of volunteers, we stand po for platform accountability and we hope that in the coming elections that these organizations do become accountable because they've shown in the 2020 US elections, they responded to the demands of civil society from all different camps to regulate fake news or bagalan po yung spread until ma-verify po siya. So if they can do it there, they should do it here now. At bago pa po magsimula yung campaign.
Kayo na yan, Albert. Siguro at the end of the year, you can publish sites that have been parang sources of fake news, di ba? Kasi, di ba, dun sa States, ganun yung ginagawa nila, no? Talagang, eto yung parang pinakamaraming pinanggalingan ng fake news ng mga sites. Ingat kayo dito. Are you inclined to do that?
Right now po, Sir Noel, we're still organizing efforts po for Halalan 2022. So, we're looking into different campaigns for against disinformation and for the truth. So, we might want our audiences, our supporters, kahit po kayo, Sir Noel, if you have suggestions, we're very open for it because we think that if we are a community-driven organization, then I think in the 2020 elections, we would also need your help po to improve our fact-checking programs.
Pero ito na nga, Albert, we're doing it online now. You're doing it online now. How do you bring it down to the community or back to the community na kunyari walang access sa internet? Di ba? Parang gano'n. Parang paano yung fact-checking ngayon dun sa community? Lalo na nga may COVID, di ba? At mahalaga ngayong election na sabi nila, okay, part of it is really a big part of it will be online, even the campaigning and all. But how do you bring it to the communities?
Yun po, Sir Noel, that's a challenge for Fact Check Philippines, and we are also still in talks din po with different media organizations on how we can expand din po yung reach po namin. Kasi I think we have a lot to learn from mainstream organizations, mga journalists, on how to improve our fact-checking. And at the same time, we can also provide them skills and experiences on how they can include fact-checking po sa reports po nila. That's why natutuwa po kami as an organization that there are some news organizations that are devoted to it right now. But I think kailangan pong mas damihan po siya, especially po in radio, in different platforms po. So that's what we're trying to look into right now on how we can engage these organizations. Kasi open naman po ang yung iba sa kanila.
Buti nga kasi yung iba, di ba, parang fake news yung unang maano nila. Yun yung una, parang clickbait ba? Sasabihin mo na nila yung fake news, tapos sasagutin. Pero binibigyan ng oras. Ako yun parang, hindi na nga yung, di ba, responsibility ng isang media establishment na bago i-ere, talagang i-fact check mo muna. Pero ngayon, iba yung way. Ilalabas na nila yan, tapos sinasagot yung fake news, tapos nagiging balita. So, it's different. So, how do you, anong reminder nyo yan, di ba? Bago nyo i-share, or even to mainstream media establishments, no? Bago nyo bigyan ng airtime, i-fact check nyo na muna. Parang gano'n.
Yes, I think po, Sir Noel, from our perspective po as Fact Check Philippines, our volunteers have also been very very honest about what they think about this. Kailangan po talaga ng fact-checking training, seminars, at mga workshops with journalists. Kasi sometimes po, they unconsciously share misinformation.
Sino yung para to make it lighter, sino yung madalas parang kino-call out nyo? Nasa mainstream journalists, meron na kayong nasita man lang na tipong ingat naman kayo? And how did they take it?
Sir Noel, sa experience po namin, wala po kami so far po na with regards po to mainstream journalists. But I think yung sa amin po, sir, yung sa amin po kasi, Sir Noel, what we get is that yung mga misinformation at misleading po talaga nasa channels, let's say like radio or like araw-araw na usapan. So parang yung mga influencers po na ito, they're not aware that they're committing it. So I think yun po yung tinatry po namin gawin ngayon, yung mga workshops. Kasi kahit kami, I'm a Gen Z millennial, hindi pa ako nakikinig sa radyo, so hindi ko alam yung balita po na ganun. But I've tried.
Part of the regulatory board should be, kunyari, kung may kabisanan ng mga broadcasters ng Pilipinas, dun yung entry point ninyo. No? Kasi parang, paano yung fact-checking? Pero ngayon yata internal dapat within the news organization yung pag-fact-check. Paano kaya? Parang meron bang system, kunyari, fact check na dapat dumating sa point na yon, Albert, na nanonood yung Fact Check Philippines, ingat kayo. Parang ganoon, dapat yun na yung magiging nyo, di ba? Reputasyon.
Ganyan na po. Actually po, Sir Noel, based on our experience, what we know is that that's what they're doing in the United States ngayon. Ngayon. There was an organization called Media Matters. Yeah. So, naging mas aware po yung journalists of what they say.
Kunyari, example ito, Rafi Tulfo saying, ang kasalanan ng tatay ay hindi kasalanan ng anak. Di ba parang, gano'n, referring to Bongbong Marcos as a campaign, di ba? As a campaign stand, principle. And then, here comes a journalist, Atom Araulio, calling out Rafi Tulfo on that. Na, pero mayroon, parang, opinion mo yan, kasi ang ginamit niyang reference was his own family, no, na yung kasalanan ng ate niya, hindi niya kasalanan, etc. At depende na sa mga court cases. And di ba, of course, you checked on the martial law facts. Meron talagang mga court decisions, meron talagang yun. So paano yun? Parang sinagot ni Atom si Rafi Tulfo on certain matters about the Marcos era. Do you want that kind of fact-checking on air?
As fact-check Philippines po, it would really help po if we have like on-air pong fact-checking. Kasi sometimes po, some journalists, hindi po sila, like we need to be more proactive with regards po to identifying po when a certain person says misinformation, disinformation, fake news. At hindi lang po sa ganitong context, kahit po sa iba't ibang context, kasi marami po talaga yung context na ganun po.
Ang galing, no? Kahit yung pag-uusap natin, parang when you spread lies and rumors, you'd say, ang una mo nga hanapin talaga, source, kanino nang galing, at lagi natin tatanungin, sinong makikinabang? Di ba? For whom, di ba? So pag kinalat yung mga ganyang balita, sino makikinabang? Ano yung pakinabang mo? And you would tend to believe those people who can be objective about things na walang kabig. Di ba palagi natin sinasabi, no? Kayo, wala naman siguro kayong at stake, no? When you do these things, di ba? Kasi yun yung pinakakasiraan ng kahit na sino. Pag tinanong, sinong nakikinabang sa ginagawa nyong ito? So kayo, wala kayong sinasanto kung kasi kanino man galing yung mga data yon. Now, give us more pointers. If people are watching now, how can we go against fake news now? Especially talamak yan at dadami. You think dadami pa yan, no? Before the elections.
I think yung dagdag po, aside from looking at sources, consulting experts, consulting yung mga, like we really trust na media organizations yung nasa mainstream media, I think it's also important for us to take a step back and when we watch a video, let's say, tanungin yung sarili natin kung tugma ba yung headline sa nilalaman na video? Kasi yun po yung talamak po ngayon na nare-receive po namin na nasa YouTube. So parang kami hindi tugma yung headline sa laman ng video. But at the same time, we also need to be okay naman maging emotional but become less emotional when it comes to fact checking kasi minsan yun yung nagka-cloud sa atin, and I think as an organization we really work hard on that. But as for ordinary people, we have to take a step back muna and remove our biases about a certain issue, about a certain person, at tignan natin kung totoo ba to. And then try to look for other sources kung tama ba. Kasi minsan po yung ginagawa po ng fake news po ngayon, they're telling a story tapos parang yung headline iba siya sa nilalaman. So that's the first po. The second is I think it's important for us to also ask ourselves muna if the end goal of our conversations with other people or the end goal of our media consumption, is it really for us to be informed or are we just bored? Kasi kapag bored po tayo, mas madali po tayo na nagiging biktima ng fake news. Kahit ako personally, parang nagsuscroll lang ako, hala, nakakatawa to. Tapos biglang, hala, ba't may TikTok na yung gantong kandidato? Ganun. So I think yun po yung pangalawa. Yung third is, I think it's also important for us to revisit our relationship with journalists at yung media organizations. Kasi ako, naaawa po ako sa mainstream media po natin since like 2016 started, 2015 started, kasi they've been attacked in many ways. And I do believe din naman that they need to do a lot of improvements in the way that they report. But I also believe na may credibility talaga sila to speak on things. And yung recent report po kasi, bumaba po yung trust ng mga Filipinos, around 70 to 60% na lang po tayong trusting of media organizations. So para nakakabahala po siya.
Can we go there for a while? Oo, nabahala ako dyan kasi we used to like look for them, no, or look up to them in fact checking and then telling us the truth, no. Pero at this point, kasi it takes time. Katulad din ng nangyayari sa inyo, it takes time before you can like fact check and do research. Sila they have to churn out reports after reports, no. So and it seems like nauunahan sila ng internet, nauunahan talaga sila ng fake news. Or do you also factor in mas takot sila na nagawin yon ngayon?
I think po, Sir Noel, based on the data that's available, let's say, in the media organizations about the assaults to press freedom, yung assaults po na nangyayari sa mainstream media organizations, let's say yung yung award po kay Maria Ressa recently na Nobel Peace Prize, are indicative po na there might be a climate of fear in their sector of organization. At kanina po, Sir Noel po, no, like you asked us about our experience. So there is a climate of fear with regards to telling the truth and combating fake news at this information.
Pero ang tapang nyo, nagsisimula pa lang kayo, pero I won't be surprised. You'll be surmounting more problems. Kung ngayon, puro trolls lang yan. Iba pa. Pero kasi nga, alam mo, yung badge of honor ng mga journalists, demanda. So handa ka ba doon, if ever? Handa ba kayo doon?
yung ginagawa po namin po Sir Noel, as much as possible when we fact check, we make sure that we triangulate data
Yeah.
at we also contact them.
Very
Kasi
good.
kapag hindi po sila sumasagot, we can say na tinawagan namin yung office nyo. We also asked other people na involved sa let's say sa organization nyo, and there was no one responsive. So ito lang yung magagawa namin. That's why we also put sometimes disclaimers na we were able to reach out to them, ganyan. So important po.
Yes.
Pero if it comes to the point po na mangyayari po yung mga ganon, I think as an organization, we have to stand for what is true po. At ginagawa naman po namin yung job po namin na maging faithful po sa katotohanan at hindi po sa certain camp or certain
Albert,
individual.
I'll hold you accountable to that. Ha? Parang, na sana hindi ka magiging tainted and eventually hindi ka subsumed, eventually hindi ka mako-co-op. Lalo na yung group. No? Pero mahirap ha. I can tell you mahirap. Some other things, iba pa, other pointers na pwede nating sabihin dun sa mga kababayan natin na, ingat kayo dyan. Ano pa yung mga pointers ninyo? Before I go to yung the bigger scale na why are we so divided? Parang all these fake news divide us as a nation, di ba? Pero we'll go to that. Ano pa yung mga reminders, practical reminders na mga flags, red flags?
I think po yung another red flag po about fake news at disinformation at misinformation is that sometimes it's being shared by people closest to us, our loved ones, our jowas.
People sometimes,
Credible
jowas,
people
plural
din po.
ka na jowas, ha?
Wala pa akong jowa.
Okay.
Pero ayun po, sir.
Na wala pa, pwede pa po. Hindi yan fake news. Okay.
Ayun po, sir. Parang I think sometimes we also need to come from a place of, let's say, concern at care for our loved ones when we fact check them as well. Kasi personally, with our volunteers, marami po silang experiences, lalo na nung vaccine rollout po, sir, ng government po natin. Marami po kaming personal experiences with people who don't want to get vaccinated. So, we had to come from a place of concern and care na kahit ayaw po nilang pina-fact check po namin sila every time that we eat, we had to do it so that they can be vaccinated. And we're now happy that most of our volunteers, they're now vaccinated, yung parents nila, yung mga loved ones nila, at na surpass po nila yung fake news phase po nila. So I think when it comes to us fact checking also our people close to us, we shouldn't see them with bad intentions din. Kasi kanina po, Sir Noel, we also emphasize po, diba, na kahit tayo nabibiktima ng fake news, but what more sila? So I think
sorry yung mga tao, yung kilala natin at least, no? Parang yun eh. So when you know you've when you know you've shared fake information, what do? You say sorry or you just erase it? What's a normal way? What's a usual way?
Yung usual way po, I have to be also accountable kasi kanina po, Sir Noel, he said na maging accountable po ako. There was a time na akala ko po totoo po siya. Tapos this was a year ago. Tapos shinare ko po siya. Tapos sinabi ng friend ko, "Uy, ano yan? Hindi yan verified." Tapos parang fact check na yan ng verifiers at ng ibang organizations. So I had to apologize and had to remove it as well. So of course, bago ko po siya i-remove, dapat mag-apologize at magpasalamat po ako sa nag-fact check po sa akin. So kasi important po siya na may recognition.
Ang galing ng process yan. So may recognition, parang hidden wealth din lang yan. No? May recognition of the fault and then you rectify it. Kasi kung i-skip mo lang yung ganung process, parang may dishonesty din doon.
Yeah. May dadagdag din po ako dyan, Sir Noel. So in Fact Check Philippines naman, as an organization, there might be some information, let's say na developing story po siya, or yung information po na ito hindi po siya publicly available, biglang naging publicly available. So that's why we are very responsive din to our audiences and not only to our volunteers na kapag may mapo-point out sila na, uy, na-miss nyo yung information na to, nagpapasalamat kami. We also recognize that, we like their comments kasi we also learn from our audiences na may mga wealth din sila ng information that we might not have access to. Pero yung kailangan nilang gawin is to also back it with sources of information. At yun yung maganda sa community of audiences at volunteers namin, they do that to each other na walang halong emotional na attack sa isa't isa.
Pero mahirap yun, ha? It takes
Opo.
maturity to really address that. So, it says something about us, yung pag-propagate talaga ng fake news, that our country is so divided, no, Albert? Parang
Yes,
it's so polarized at this point. But are there spaces where we can like work together? Is parang yung bang paglilinis ng information, yung truth telling ba is something we value, or tatanggapin na lang natin yung divide? Ano yung attitude natin dyan?
Kami po, Sir Noel, no? I think because as volunteers, we've also come to realize that our role isn't just to fact check. Hindi po siya nag-e-end sa isang fact check report. Kasi there is a recognition, and nabanggit niyo po kanina, Sir Noel, that there might be very big forces behind the spread of misinformation, disinformation, and fake news na kahit kami hindi namin alam kung sino ba yung talaga yung behind all of this.
Naku, alam nyo yan, hindi nyo lang sinasabi.
Siguro po, sir, yung topic.
Reports from Rappler and some other voices, no? Pero parang, well, yun yating sa inyo, nararamdaman nyo from your end, no, from your base, no? Then if you have enough information, you can back it up with actual experiences,
yes,
di ba? But this early, can you say there are bigger factors that hover and maneuver?
Yung bigger, siguro po, sir, based on the data, kasi nung June and July, the fact check reports that we receive for a month are around 100 to 200. In fact, there are days po na wala pong nagsasend ng fact check report po sa inbox namin at the start of this year. Pero nung September and October, when we counted it, no? Yung October po, yes po, yung October po talaga, dun po kami nagulat na right now, as I had checked earlier kung magkano na po yung, ilan na po yung nag-report.
Magkano talaga?
Magkano? Ilan na po yung
kaya yung nag-gastos. There should be money involved in like propagating this, kasi ilang portals kaya o ilang cellphones kaya, ilang computers kaya yung ginagamit dyan, di ba?
So, I think po from our experience sa inbox po namin, around, yun na po, 800 reports na po as of speaking po right now. So, ibig pong sabihin, we take it positively na people are concerned. But we also take it also a symptom or a sign that there is a bigger storm coming. Kasi if hindi pa lang po election season ngayon, or parang filing pa lang po, or nag-iintay pa po sila ng confirmation ng mga candidates, if 800 na po siya, like what more if political campaign na po talaga, or electoral campaign, maybe we'll receive around 2,000 in just 2 weeks. Ganun.
Parang COVID cases yan, no?
Ayun, parang pandemic po talaga. Pandemic.
Ang ganda, parang yung yung pagkalat, yung pag-spread niyan, parang pandemic talaga. Pero can you give us also yun nga times? Well, kasi may mga sinasabi na yung mga trolls active during office hours, after that. Ano yung mga behavior niya na makikita mo ay troll nga, na tinotroll ka nga?
Yung sa amin po, Sir Noel, most of the fact check requests that we receive actually come at let's say night hanggang early morning po. Tapos by the time na hapon, like let's say lunchtime to afternoon, medyo bumabagal na po siya. And based on our engagement po sa posts namin, there are more negative comments based on our experience po when it comes to talking about martial law at yung pamilyang Marcos. But when it comes to other news, let's say vaccines, about yung mga, let's say yung mga bihon, kasi you also fact check po yung bihon daw, may gantong content. At dun po, wala pong masyadong negative comments. People are just like commenting na thanks for sharing, ganyan. But also when it comes to, let's say, famous individuals like Vice President Leni Robredo, dun po talaga hindi po namin nagigets na fact check na nga po namin na hindi po siya totoo. Tapos tatawagin po yung organization namin na kung ano-ano. Opo, ganyan, bias po.
No, well, let's just the trend, no? So malakas
Opo.
yung DN on issues on martial law
Opo.
and the Marcoses. Why so? Is there parang a concerted effort for revisionism, parang ganun, or to twist facts on it? Kasi even in mainstream media, di ba, may ganyan, may conditioning din.
Opo. I think po, sir, the fact that we did around 60 reports, 60 fact-check reports po on nung September po, nung martial law at Marcoses, which is very, very high compared to the ones that we did before, shows na there is some concerted effort talaga to revise history. Tapos yung isa sa mga very popular topics po talaga is yung Nutribon na project pala ng USAID at US government for the Philippines in poverty, for poverty alleviation of hunger. So
and
I think
times were better during the Marcos era, di ba?
Yes,
parang yun. Parang the roads. But how do you answer those?
How we answer po that is at first we say that hindi po siya totoo, or it can be also misleading because there are certain economic data that points na at the start of martial law at yung Marcos regime na okay naman po yung economic development.
Pero Albert, nakita ko yung mga picture ng mga roads, di ba? Makikita mo yung mga arts, no? Complete with roads supposedly. And then yun, in fact checking it, data talaga yung panlaban.
So data po siya, and then at the same time we also provide nung last we also last month we fact check yung Singapore and Philippines na mas maunlad daw yung Philippines ng 1960s. So what we did was that sabi namin, paano natin to i-fact check? Sabi ko sa volunteers. Tapos, what we did was that one of the volunteers said na, maglagay tayo ng picture ng Philippines nung time na yon. So, kami, sobrang nahirapan po kami, Sir Noel, kasi we had to...
Ang creative nun talaga.
So we kasi yung 1960s, we don't have really much pictures of the bad side of Manila. But we're very lucky kasi may mga iilang sources that show pictures of poverty and slum areas in Manila during that time. And we had to contrast it with the high-rise, yung mga roads.
The poverty situation in Singapore also, di ba?
Tapos, yes po. So we also had to look also at the picture of Singapore. Sabi nila, mahirap daw. But in reality, there were already high-rises during the 1960s. Pero may slum areas pa rin sa kanila. So I think kailangan din ng visual aspect when it comes to fact-checking. Kasi we noticed, Sir Noel, na people are visual people as well. So they like to see pictures and videos. So yun po.
Ibang klase talaga. So kawawa yung mga taong basta-basta nilang naniwala. Buti na lang, nandyan kayo para mag-fact check. And then kawawa rin yung mga biktima. And now we go to Vice President Lenny. Parang sinabi mo nga na parang she's the most bashed, I guess, or siya yung pinaka-object nung fake news. What was the harshest? Na parang yung mga tao kahit na finact-check nyo na, paulit-ulit at parang yun yung gusto nilang i-propagate na narrative.
I think po, Sir Noel, in the past 5 to 6 years of 2017 kami nag-start. Bugbog so parang nung nag-start po kami 2017, Sir Noel, I think there are three things that we observed when it comes to Vice President Lenny Robredo. Na recurring po siya. Yung pinaka-first po talaga na I think as an organization, kasi marami din po sa mga volunteers po namin, babae, part po ng LGBT, na we feel very offended din na yung attack towards Vice President Lenny Robredo is yung false claim na may nakabit daw siya or parang may ibang asawa siya. So parang kami po, sir, we had to, kasi kahit 2017 kami nag-start and we received this report around 2019 to 2020. We had to look for videos, we had to look for interviews. And we are very lucky kasi there are journalists who were able to have interviews at dun sinabi nga ni Vice President Lenny na hindi po ito totoo. Correct. So we had to consistently reinforce that, surprisingly, kasi paulit-ulit siyang fake news na nangyayari.
Kung paulit-ulit, tapos didiinan pa ng head of state na okay, nang ganong ano yung tawag nun, blind item, ang hirap, di ba? So, isa yon sa mga inuulit-ulit. Ano pa? Kasi eventually, alam mo, Albert, ibabalik at ibabalik yan. Kasi, di ba?
Yung pangalawa, I think yung pangalawang fake news item po na palaging binabato kay Vice President Leni Robredo is that yung tulong, it's either hindi po siya tumutulong or yung tinutulungan niya hindi maganda. For example po, nung 2020, nung bumagyo po sa Bicol, she was able to provide yung NIPA HUTS material kasi yun po yung kailangan ng community according to her office when we asked for a fact check report then from them, kasi there were news na bakit daw siya mamimigay ng ganun, bakit daw hindi bakal yung mga construction materials. So we were able to fact check that, and we understood that kaya pala ganun kasi yun yung hiningi ng community, and the community was a fishing community, and ang yung bahay nila talaga ganun. So and they also
you provided context kasi if taken out of context, iba nga, parang yun binibigay ng hindi kailangan. Do you think ibabalik yun or nabaon nyo na yun sa limot?
I think po, Sir Noel, based on our fact check reports po so far, wala na pong bumabalik po na fake news about that. But I think nag-iiba lang yung topic. So let's say kapag yung pinaka-recent po, sir, about sa pagtutulong niya na din naman is that yung Vaccine Express daw po sa Laguna, inaagawan niya daw yung bakuna yung mga taga Laguna or areas where she goes.
Di ba?
Tapos parang kami po, sir, parang we had to look for statements from officials that she worked with, press releases, yung mga news statements. Tapos wala naman palang ganon. Tapos parang naglabas pa na ng statement yung mayor na hindi po siya inaagawan or parang yung pinoprovide po na support nakakatulong talaga. So it's parang for us as an organization, nakakatuwa that there are some public officials defending their leaders as well. But also sad po siya kasi these officials had to come out to deny these false allegations.
Kasi so, di ba, parang ngayon, yung mindset ng mga tao, parang sinang attention span. Na pag nasabi na, pag hindi narinig yung pag-fact check, yun na magsistick sa mga tao. So, paano pa namin kayo matutulungan para mapalawak pa yung network nyo? Do you see yourselves or having an auxiliary unit in schools and communities? How can we propagate what you're espousing now?
Okay, thank you, Sir Noel. Actually, right now, we're looking into opening the organization to having more volunteers. It's just that we are just preparing kasi we need like a structure na para prepared po lahat at organized po lahat when we have
lawyers,
more volunteers.
Please with lawyers kasi mamaya ayoko makita na nasa kulungan kayo na parang meron talagang tumutulong sa inyo ng mga ganon. Tapos paano pa kayo matutulungan tao? Go to Fact Check Philippines, Facebook yan, no?
Yes pa. So go to Fact Check Philippines, like our page, follow our page. So I would just like to thank po yung mga like say Miss Karen and our supporters for like amplifying our efforts kasi dumami po yung likers po namin in the past few weeks, not just because of the fact check reports but because of the overwhelming support that we receive from the rest of civil society. So yung pangalawa po siguro, aside from liking and following our page, we would also appreciate it if you forward fake news materials to our inbox. Kasi yun po talaga yung kailangan po natin ngayon. We have to work together to fight fake news and combat misinformation and disinformation. So yung third po siguro na pwede po natin gawin, maybe if you don't want to volunteer with us because baka nakatakot kayo or parang wala kayong time, share our posts. You can also do your fact check. There are a lot of materials that are available. Pwede po yun. So, ayun po. Yun po yung pwede po natin.
Parang hasang-hasa ka naman na, Albert. Pero yun, we're here to support you and your advocacy. At yun, sana nga parang lumawak pa yung network ng Fact Check Philippines at sana nga magka-jowa ka na. Huwag mo lang siya masyadong i-fact check masyado. Kasi baka natatakot na sila sa'yo kasi yun na yung sobrang fact-checking. Pero yon, we appreciate your efforts at sana yun na lumawak pa yung network ninyo. At in any way na makakatulong kami, nandito lang kami. Maraming salamat. So thank you for this second interview. Sana nag-enjoy ka, hindi ka na kinakabahan. You're on for more invitations after this. Thank you, Albert.
Thank you po, sir.
Up next, we talk about empowering ourselves and highlighting the spirit of volunteerism. We'll have our friends from Dapat Sileni and our friends na talagang hindi ko alam kung paano sila mare-reward for all their work even before the campaign. Wala pang formal campaign pero nandun na sa kanila yung fire para pasimula ng isang pagbabago. We'll be right back with Level Up in a while. Thank you, Albert.
Thank you po.
Noong nagdeklara ako, tinanong ako ng media kung pink na daw pa talaga ang brand colors natin. Ang sabi ko, sa totoo lang, hindi pa namin ito pinag-uusapan dahil biglaan ang naging desisyon natin. Pero sa taong bayan na mismo nanggaling ang direksyon, pink ang kulay ng pag-asang nagising sa loob nating lahat. Nakita natin ang pagbaha ng pink sa mga social media feed natin, na mga ribbon sa poste, na mga litrato, na mga taong nagsuot ng pink para magpakita ng pakikiisa sa ipinaglalaban natin. Kaya maraming salamat sa pakikiisang ito. Mahaba pa ang lalakbayin natin. Kaya may panawagan ako sa inyo. Ipakita na ang pink hindi lang basta kulay. Uri siya ng pamumuhay. Hindi lang siya damit o ribbon. Kulay siya ng pagkatao na bukas, nakikinig, nagmamahal. Tayong lahat ang nagdadala nito. Kailangan nating isalamin ang tunay na ibig sabihin ng pink habang suot natin ito. Gumawa ng mabuti, magpaabot ng tulong sa kapwa, maging mahinahon sa pagbabahagi ng ating mensahe. Tandaan, madaling makipagtalo, mas radikal ang magmahal. Hanapin ang mga damdamin at sentimiento nagbibigay sa bawat Pilipino. At mula doon, bigyan liwanag ang katotohanan. Iisa ang pangarap nating bukas. Mas mapayapa at mas maginhawa. Isang bukas kung saan hindi magkakalaban, kundi ipinaglalaban ng Pilipino ang isa't isa. Rosas ang kulay ng bukas at pag-ibig ang magdadala sa atin doon. Pag-ibig ang magpapanalo sa atin sa laban na ito.
In the inbox, chat box, hour, and I'm with people who have empowered themselves so much, and we're highlighting really the spirit of volunteerism in our second part. So let me introduce them to you. Let's start with the girl. So, hindi ko alam kung may jowa siya. Naging topic na tuloy ko may jowa. Tingnan natin, fact check natin kung may jowa sila or wala. She's in charge of volunteer management in Dapat Sileni, and we'll talk about the groundswell of support. But before that, probably ang magandang starting point is to ask why they are so invested in all these. Ano ba yung nakukuha nila doon? So, Roslyn Bocato, magandang hapon. May jowa ka na nga ba?
Hi, Sir Noel. Good afternoon. I am happily married, Sir Noel.
So, yan na. Wala na. Hindi na pwede. So, but Rosin, I want to ask you, you're covering what area? And but I know you're in charge of volunteer management, no? So at this point, it's not much of a problem because there's a groundswell of support. But then
Yes.
the question is, with these elections, why are you so invested?
Just like all the other volunteers, we really want what's best for our country, and we really can't afford another 60 years na ganito tayo. So I think it's more of katulad nabanggit before ni VP Lenny, pag tumindig ka, may titindig sa tabi mo, and we're making a stand. So that's the kind of volunteerism, and that's the kind of future that we envision our country to have. Yung tipong empowered yung mga tao. Yeah.
Parang hindi yan para sa atin, para sa sarili, kung hindi para sa mas nakakarami. Or
Yes.
So it's not a selfish motive of advancing yourself, really, or our expertise, di ba? But really amplifying yung pwedeng mangyari given this kind of leadership.
Yes, yes.
Giancarlo Garcia, boss pala to. Siya ang, or parang the national head? Is that how they call you? Giancarlo Garcia? O may jowa ka ba, Gian? Carlo?
Hi, Sir Noel. Good afternoon. Single pa po ako but will mingle later. Opo. I'm the national coordinator po of local communities and grassroots organizing ng Dapat Silenyo.
Ang trabaho mo, alam mo yan, no? Because the challenge really is not online, not just online, but really, well, ang palagi sinasabi, break the echo chambers and then go to the grassroots. Yun, parang yung battle cry noong 2016 na balik sa laylayan. How is that possible now?
Well, it's possible right now kasi although malaki yung impact ng internet sa magiging election ngayon, sa magiging kampanya, marami pa rin kasing tao yung walang access sa internet. And that's also the reason why maraming echo chambers na perform within political circles. So we don't really hear what the common folk are thinking unless you go outside. Ang challenge nga lang is, of course, may pandemic ngayon. So we can't really do the traditional campaigning na nagbabahay-bahay. Pero as much as possible, puntahan pa rin yung mga communities, listen to them. And it's more possible right now kasi you don't need to reach out Sila mismo yung lalapit sa'yo. Sila mismo yung magsasabi ng mga hinaing nila sa gobyerno, ano yung hinahanap nila sa susunod na leader. And may mga communities na sila mismo yung willing na makilala sila kung hindi pa man nila kilala.
Pero kailangan mo ng pondo. Ikaw yung pinakakailangan ng pera, di ba? Kasi yung resources na sinasabi, eventually, papunta dun sa mga communities kasi yun yung walang pera. Kasi si Jayson, dun mamaya no, sa online efforts, kaya naman niya sarili niya, di ba? Pero yung pagpunta sa komunidad, iba yung expectations, Gian.
Well, totoo yan, Sir Noel. Sobrang kailangan ng funding kapag mag-organize ka ng community. Pero what's so different about this campaign, sir? Sobrang alwan niya in the sense na yung community mismo yung magre-reach out sa'yo. Sila yung mag-welcome sa'yo. Sila mismo yung nag-organize ng mga sarili nila. So when it comes to resources, hindi mo na kailangang maghanap sa national nasa ground ang resources. Like, in municipalities, in provinces, sila mismo nag-organize. May mga tao na medyo may kakayanan sa buhay, willing na mag-shell out, willing na magpa-print ng tarps. Sila mismo yung nag-i-introduce sa mga communities nila. So all we really need to do as national coordinators is to reach out to these communities and provide whatever linkages they need, whatever materials, assets. And sometimes kami mismo yung kakausap sa community if they want us to do that. So, pero yung resources nandyan available na sa mga tao.
Sinabi mo yan pero dyan kinakabahan yung mga tao, yung pagbuhos ng resources sa community. Kaya asahan talaga nila na meron kang pakimkim pagpunta doon, na pamerienda at yung sound system na, well, which is very traditional, di ba? Na pagkakampanya. Now, I want to introduce you isang kapatid ko na kasama ko every Thursday bago pa man nagkaroon ng ganitong pagkilos. Pero yon, si Jayson Maulit ay isang veterano na siguro sa pangangampay dito. Jayson, kumusta? May jowa ka ba?
Wait lang. Kung nakikinig yung nanay ko, baka matuwa siya pag sinabi kong oo, pero bawal magsinungaling. So, wala talaga.
Anyway, so where were you before all these talks about elections, Jayson? Even before we met? I know you helped candidates during the 2019 elections, no? But then parang for a while nanahimik pero umaasa na sana mag-bounce back. How different was the 2019 elections from now?
Very different dahil mas maraming takot at hindi sumusuporta ng 2019. Pero ngayon 2022, mas emboldened, although mas mahirap siya kaysa sa 2019. Hindi naman ako nawala, kapatid. Parang after 2019, napunta ako sa Congress. So yung naging trabaho ko ay para sa isang party list naman na tumutulong sa mga magsasaka. So parang from 2019 to 2021, ang practice run ko talaga is to be with grassroots communities, amplifying their issues. Kasi yung issues nila pang grassroots pero kailangan mo ng digital presence para mapag-usapan ka ng mga communities who are decision makers but do not understand what the grassroots communities are going through. So halimbawa, yung issue ng magsasaka, very important siya sa nation, pero pag nandiyan ka na sa middle class, upper class, hindi naman na issue na magsasaka yun. It's more of accessing resources, liberalization ng food, mga ganon. Kaya yun yung naging training ko.
Na marginalized, di ba?
Yes.
Sorry to ask you this question. Breaking news is that our VP has now named
her 12th slot at 12. Habang nagsasalta ka, yung group chat ng dapat si Lenny ay punong-puno ng si Attorney Sonny.
So what is your reaction to that? Does he represent the marginalized sector like you were saying? You were helping the party list?
Ang sabi ni VP Lenny, di ba, yung 12th slot will be for a champion of the marginalized. And I think si future Senator Matula represents that. Diba? Hindi lang siya parang champion of the marginalized through words, pero namuhay siya, nanggaling siya sa sektor na yon, part siya ng alliance of labor leaders who are supporting VP Lenny, and parang, if I remember correctly, 2 million votes yung dala nung sektor na yon. So ako, I'm very, very excited to have someone from, na ba tawag dito? Hindi ko siya masabing dark horse kasi babad na siya sa issues ng community. So parang gusto ko...
Roslyn, habang nagsasalita ka at ako'y napapalunok, but I have to ask this question. Is he a better choice than Neri Colmenares? You think?
I trust the Vice President's wisdom in doing it. Dapat si Lenny was established trusting the Vice President's wisdom in deciding things. So ako personally, iboboto ko si Kong Neri Colmenares. Very aligned siya sa prinsipyo ko bilang tao. I cannot speak for the entire organization. Pero kung ang pinagpilian ay si Senator Matula and future Senator Colmenares also, if the decision-making process pointed out to Matula, then I will respect and I will defend that choice as part of the organizing.
It's a Q&A. Anyway, the same question.
Grabe ha?
The same question as Roslyn. Why are you so invested in these elections, Jayson?
Ako, dalawa yung dahilan. Yung first ay meron akong personal na rason.
Okay.
Nung summer, ang plano ko talaga is mag-resign ng April and magpahinga hanggang October. Just in case tumakbo si ma'am, at least parang yung aking mental health and everything, okay na siya. Parang, okay, laban na tayo. Excited na ulit akong mangampanya.
Okay.
Pero, tinamaan ng COVID yung pamilya ko ng April.
Okay.
I don't know if you heard about it, pero parang 7 immediate family members dito sa Antipolo, tinamaan. We lost my great-grandmother and grandmother. Sila yung mga kasama sa populasyon na always stayed at home. So sinunod ng pamilya ko lahat ng protocols. 2 of my family members are frontliners. Hindi kami makahanap ng kama nung surge.
Okay.
Yung unang kinailangan ng ospital, dumating yung kama 3 days after niyang mamatay. So ako, personal sa akin yung election na to kasi ito yung death na hindi dapat nangyari if we only had better responses. Ako, I mean, at that point, tatanggap ako ng tulong sa kahit na kanino. Actually, kahit si Marcos pa yan, kung sinabi niya, bigyan kita ng ospital, isasantabi ko yung politika para sa buhay ng pamilya ko. Pero iisang tao lang yung nakinig at yung nagpadala ng tulong talaga. So parang kung ako na nasaktan, kung ako na medyo may kaunting network naman, hindi pa rin makahanap for me and my family, what more yung ordinary Filipinos? That's my personal reason. The second is, I think, and this goes for many DSL volunteers, maraming sumasali sa Dapat si Lenny kasi tingin nila this is the fight of their lives. And the fight of their...
For the young voters, for the new voters especially.
Young voters slightly not so young because ang demographic ng Dapat si Lenny parang aabot naman tayo hanggang 38 to 40.
Yeah.
Pero sinasabi nila na eto na yung feeling nila last shot nila to even want to love the country. So masakit siya pero totoo siya kasi ako ang dami ko na ring plano na kung hindi tatakbo si VP Lenny, saan ako mag-a-apply ng scholarship abroad, saan ko gusto mag-aral, sa anong pwede ko maging career na wala na dito sa Pilipinas. Nasa ganung point na yung karamihan sa generation.
I want to ask that of our mga kapatid. No, Roslyn, if VP Lenny didn't run, what could you have done? Kasi very real sa amin ni Jayson yon. Kami yung nag-update na sa sarili namin. O ano na nga ba ngayong araw na to? Kasi araw-araw nag-iiba yung mangyayari. But what if she didn't run?
And that is, I think if she didn't run, then that is the time wherein we will factor in the lesser evil na sinasabi natin. And karamihan ng mga tao, yun yung sinasabi, di ba? Parang with VP Lenny, the mere fact that she ran, it's not a choice anymore of lesser evil. Kasi we have a politician, a presidential who is eventually better or the best among the rest na hindi talaga natin iisipin yung pagpili ng lesser evil. So, yun siguro yung mga sir.
Yan naman ng point na yun. I'll ask you the question na medyo mahirap. So you think unity talks have bogged down already? So we're there with lesser evils as options? Or kaya pa ba nating yun, parang maging mas inclusive katulad ng sinasabi ni Ma'am hanggang election?
I mean, like, have unity talks fallen down now?
Oo, kasi sabi ni Kiko Pangilinan this morning sa Head Start ni Karen Davila, it is bogged down already. But Karen, ang galing nga ng sabi niya, baka naman VP was saving the 12th slot for you as senator. Ganon talaga yung sabi ni Karen. But Roslyn, you think it has bogged down? Or you're still hoping?
Well, we are still hoping. Personally, I'm still hoping that eventually maayos o magkakaroon talaga tayo ng united opposition na tinatawag natin.
That scenario. What scenario are you looking at? What unity scenario do you see? Like them backing out?
Hopefully. If it's really in the best interest of the country, diba? Parang kasi lagi lang sinasabi, if it's in the best interest of the country, then most likely we will back out or we will just push through and endorse a particular candidate who is best suited for the presidency. Pero yun nga, katulad na nabanggit kanina ni Jayson, hindi pa naman tapos lahat. So unless wala pa yung due date natin, then we are still very hopeful for the unity talks na eventually mag-materialize.
I won't incriminate you and push you.
ako kapatid, may sagot ako in support of...
Are you still hoping that there be movements until November 15?
Ako tingin ko, based on my experience lang din naman, ay nothing's final until the election day. Di ba? Parang gano'n. But until November 15, parang sana tuloy-tuloy pa rin yung communication lines ng mga taong tumatakbo.
Na magpareho, na may pwedeng parehong...
Baka pwedeng tignan natin ano na talaga yung mga prinsipyong gusto nating sandigan at magkaka-align tayo. Pero I think yung magiging next question mo ay, kung merong bababa, bakit hindi tayo? Di ba? Kasi yun ang sasabihin ng...
Kasi Giancarlo, I'd ask Sorry,
Ano na may tanong sa akin?
Do you think it will be in our best interest if Sara Duterte runs for a president?
Personally, yeah. I think the best interest.
That too, no?
I think so. Kasi
And ano yung friends na may headquarters sa EDSA, no? Pagkalaki-laking mga tarpaulins at banners. That. What will it lead to the demographics, if ever?
I'm sorry, ano yun?
What would it lend to the demographics, if ever?
Kasi ang karamihan kasi ng voters ni or yung mga supporters talaga ni Duterte, most especially yung mga from the provinces or even sa Metro Manila mismo, sa NCR, yung mga kasi mostly naman bumoto talaga kay Duterte. They are at a loss, most of them. Kasi, of course, while we have Bato de la Rosa and other candidates that they could rally behind, they're still hoping na may someone na malakas na pwede nilang suportahan after Duterte. And right now, si BBM yung yung nanginginapang doon, and across the board meron boto si BBM from Duterte supporters. So if Sara
doesn't seem to be that trust, no, na to appoint Bongbong, no, on their end. So parang they're still hoping it comes from their camp, really, no?
Yeah. Pero kasi yun nga, if Sara runs, then definitely yung support ni Duterte would go from Bongbong to Sara. So I expect at least makakate siguro.
Okay. So that will be beneficial to Ma'am Lenny's campaign if Sara runs. So that would be that. Okay. The next question is, so she has already declared her candidacy. So you really expected her to run. Not because ikaw Giancarlo. So you really expected her to run, or was there a space in your mind that okay, she deserves better than this politicking?
Knowing the Dutertes, they've been in politics for a very long time.
Yeah.
Like what Jayson said, nothing is ever certain until election day, and they would always come up with creative ways, diba, to surprise us. So, something tells me she's gonna run. What position? I don't know, pero definitely hindi lang mayor.
Oo naman. So at least people are ready, no? So that would be it. Roslyn, what do you think are the main issues this elections? Na tipong kailangan natin, kasi natuto na tayo, no? Dapat may resibo at dapat may mga tanong, may mga concerns tayo na pwedeng ibato sa mga kakandidato para pwede tayong maningil pagkatapos. What are the important issues that resonate with the Filipinos na dapat even for volunteer groups, kailangan nating i-address?
Siguro sa akin primarily, it's all about the pandemic response. Kasi despite the fact that, kasi ang narrative na naririnig natin normally is parang there's no country spared of this pandemic. But at the end of the day, it's a matter of how your country responded through your leaders. So pag titignan natin siya, then and if you're going to take into account your president, then you have to take into account the kind of leadership that she manifested during the time of the pandemic. So yun po siguro sa akin, Sir Noel, yung number one consideration at this point.
Number one, pandemic. So dapat consistently also, we have to show parang creativity and probably inclusivity. And you see, Ma'am Lenny doing that, no? Hindi naman yung tinatanong, nasang partido ka, ko lang tutulungan ko. No? So kita mo na during the pandemic, she was able to cover everyone regardless, no, of political dealings. Kaya nga nung sinabi niya, kung merong namumulitik ka dito, kayo yon, kasi you're stopping me from helping other people because of clipping the resources. Jayson, what other issues would resonate? Kunwari, we know the West Philippine Sea is important as an issue, no? But until now, alam natin na nagpa-file tayo ng diplomatic protest every day pa rin. Pero it seems like parang it's far from one's consciousness. Is corruption a major issue?
I think, babalik ako kay Roslyn, no? Data says pandemic is the number one issue.
Correct.
But the pandemic is the number one.
Corruption ay nakakabit dun sa pandemic.
Nakakabit siya. So, halimbawa, si pandemic yung number one issue kasi tahi siya sa lahat ng aspeto ng buhay natin. Hindi tayo makapagtrabaho ng maayos dahil may pandemic. Yung unang tinamaan ng lockdowns ay hindi naman yung mga high-paid positions here in the country, pero yung mga dispensable possessions ng masa, hindi makapasok sa eskwelahan yung mga bata. In fact, parang yung learning na nawawala sa atin every year na nasa lockdown, parang 40 years nahahabulin siya, if I'm not mistaken, dun sa nabasa natin. Diba? So, lahat ng konektado at mahahalaga sa buhay natin, nakakabit siya sa pandemic. So, how we package the issue as a volunteer campaign team and eventually the official campaign team, kumabit siya sa radical disruption ng buhay natin,
diba?
Because of the
And
pandemic.
how we're all affected by it. Kasi parang even now, no, yung parang the wages that were supposed to be like given to the mga frontliners, hindi pa rin nabibigay. And where did all these resources go to? Parang yun ang tanong natin. To think na ang dami-dami nating inutang. So, Gian, ano pa yung ibang issue? So, it's what? Number 1, pandemic. Number 2, corruption connected to the pandemic. What else?
I think at least sa provinces, malaking issue ngayon yung epekto ng policies ni Duterte. Not only because of the pandemic, but yung policy niya in general when it comes to agriculture. Kasi you may not know it or most people may not know it, pero sobrang bagsak ng presyo ng palay. Maraming areas are unable to sell their palay, 'di ba, to rice mills at gawing bigas kasi ang mura ng bilihan ng palay, luging-lugi yung mga magsasaka ngayon. Nandiyan pa rin yung paulit-ulit na problema sa livestock natin, sa babuyan. Marami pa rin affected ng African swine flu. Maraming mga piggeries ang nagsasara all over the Philippines. Yung mga magugulay natin sa Cordillera, sa ibang mga probinsya sa Pilipinas, bagsak yung presyo nila, and usually ang nagiging problema yun nga, mura yung bilihan sa merkado, at ang dahilan is of course yung proliferation ng imports at saka ng smuggling. So sobrang lax ng gobyernong ito pagdating doon. So I think malaking issue yung suporta sa agrikultura.
Ang galing. Sana binigyan mo ng briefer si Kiko kanina sa interview with Karen Davila kasi ganyan talaga, no? Parang agriculture and yung kailangan ng mga magsasaka. So,
sorry kapatid. Idadagdag ko lang din kay Boss Gian. Sobrang important ng agriculture ngayon, lalo pa at that time na yung mga kababayan natin ay hindi nababakunahan dahil yung first defense natin sa sakit ay sustansya at proper nutrition na nanggagaling kung merong food security dito sa bansa.
Yun, yung food security nga because of pandemic na rin. And if I may just add, kasi we have a personal experience sa agriculture kasi right now umani kami ng palay. We're not selling it. Hindi siya wow kasi we're not selling right now kasi luging-lugi kami pag nagbenta kami ngayon. So what we do is we keep it for our personal consumption. So siguro by 2023 may bigas pa kami. Ganun katindi. So kawawang-kawawa yung mga talagang doon lang umaasa sa pag-agrikultura.
Pero Gian, pag pumupunta ka ba sa ground ngayon, ramdam nila yan? Kasi it seems like ang sinasabi nila, ang mga supporters, sinabi rin yan sa TV kanina ni Karen, ang supporters ni VP Lenny, yung mga may kaya lang. So how do you like make it trickle down really to the CBE crowd na siyang nakakaramdam ng pinakamatinding hirap ngayong panahong ito?
Yung lagi kong sinasabi sa mga...
Totoo pa rin ba na sila yung pinaka-prone para mabigyan ng pera at tumanggap ng pera para sa kanilang mga boto?
Ito yung misconception palagi ng campaign na yung mga lower class nabibili. Sorry for a lack of a better term, nabibili yung boto, 'di ba? Sila yung madaling nabayaran. Pero kasi hindi natin iniintindi kung bakit ganun yung decision calculus nila pagdating sa pagboboto. Kasi sila sobrang cynical na ng pananaw nila sa politika na parang regardless kung sino yung umupo, they'll promise something and then hindi mangyayari, and vicious cycle na siya. So, ang ginagawa nila is, at least, mamangako man siya, tuparin niya man o hindi, nakatanggap ako ng something, may napakinabangan ako sa kanya. And ito yung something na dapat nating maintindihan doon sa mga tao na yun. Very perceptive sila. Alam nila kapag binobola sila ng politiko. And kaya madaling ihain si Lenny sa kanila. Kasi pag nagsalita si Lenny, mararamdaman mo naman yung ano niya, yung sincerity at saka may plano talaga nakasunod yung sinasabi niya. And also, dahil ganun nga yung mindset ng mga botante, especially yung mga nasa laylayan, pakiramdam nila kahit sino naman yung kandidato, hindi makikinig sa kanila or hindi sila napapansin. And ang tendency palagi ng mga nagkakampanya sa kanila, pupunta sila doon to educate them as voters, to tell them what to do, to tell them what to think. Pero we fail on just sitting down, listen to them, what matters to them, di ba? Ano yung pinakakailangan ninyo? And usually, makinig ka lang talaga sa kanila eh. Makinig ka sa kanila, sasabihin naman nila sa'yo, ito yung problema namin eh. Ito yung mga kailangan namin. Ito yung gusto naming maging leader. And ang magiging trabaho mo na lang is to tell them na ito yung vision ni Lenny eh. And ito yung vision ninyo. Hindi tayo nagkakalayo. So kailangan nating mag-meet somewhere at para maging vision natin pareho yon. So I think yun yung challenge at the same time, yun yung masarap gawin right now in this campaign.
Pero paano yan? Napa-register mo pa yung mga tao dyan? Kasi isa sa mga balakid ngayon talaga yung pandemic, yung pagpunta pa nila sa COMELEC mismo ng mga centers, di ba? Doon sa mga probinsya ba, do you have data as to like, are these people lining up there, new voters with a more open mind to these changes you wanna institute?
Ito yung maganda, Sir Noel. Unlike sa mga urban dwellers, mas masipag ang mga rural dwellers sa pagre-register nila kasi parang parte na ng kultura nila na mag-register. So maagap yung mga yan, nagre-register talaga sila. I don't have the data, sorry. I really don't know kung gaano karami, pero based on experience at saka ng mga nakakasalumuhong mga tao, talagang sila talaga yung active, as in barabarangay sila minsan na magpaplano, sino yung mga hindi nagre-register, punta na tayo sa COMELEC, ganyan. And of course, meron ding mga pagkakataon na mismo yung mga local politicians, syempre, sila mismo yung pupunta sa barangay, sasakay nila yung mga botante, ipaparegister.
At nga, parang ngayon may mga trend na rin na yung mga local leaders are the ones parang encouraging them already or nag-iba na rin ng kampo. Now we talked about what if she didn't run, and so she declared her candidacy already. How did the whole campaign itsura change when she announced her candidacy? Jayson, go. Parang there was a groundswell really, of support. So nabuhayan tayong lahat, and the challenge was really to sustain it. But there was euphoria, there was hope. Jayson, can you describe the whole, yun ko na, so dapat si Lenny, sabi mo nga, it was established, a few months before the elections, and now, well, you can go to the PowerPoint if you want, but intro the PowerPoint first.
Hindi, dito, we launched July 15.
That's it.
I think
ready lang with the PowerPoint, so he'll be like talking about it in a while.
The best feeling I can describe what happened on October 7 is we got like it's loud pink. Loud pink talaga. I mean, I can't even define.
That was really kagyat na decision na mag-pink, Jayson. Kasi, well, I had news from the inner circle na ang advice talaga that Tuesday was blue. And all our designer friends like JC Buendia and all the other people were giving her blue attires. Kaya sinabi ko, uy, huwag mawala yung pink. We're waiting for the pink sign. Pero yun na nga, naka-blue. Kasi yun na yung advice. Pero nagkaroon ng pink ribbon. So why pink, Jayson, and what was the whole feeling?
So when we started, dapat si Lenny, blue and pink yung naging color niya.
Yes.
Aksidente lang din na pink yung secondary, like yung isang kulay. Kasi I think we read somewhere na talagang lucky color ni Ma'am yung blue.
Yeah.
And it really looks so nice on her.
Yeah.
Pero kinailangan natin ng secondary color dahil meron tayong husay at tibay message. At parang naniniwala talaga tayo na kung gagawa ka ng kampanya, kung dapat si Lenny ang sagot, ano yung tanong?
Yes.
Diba?
Yes.
Kaya ka may husay at tibay.
Yeah.
We were trying to experiment with blue and other colors. We tried mustard yellow, orange, green. nairita na yata yung nag-iisang multimedia volunteer natin nung pa-revise tayo ng pa-revise. Sinabi niya na mag-pink na lang, tapos nag-send ng black-pink na...
Truth be told, Jayson po...
July.
Jayson po ang nagpa-print ng ibang mga tote bags namin at mga shirts na sabi nila, ay baka collector's item na yan. Ma'am, so we had to pay. Ang hirap ng maningil pag hindi siya tumakbo, collector's item na yan.
Alam ko yung first batch ng collats ay tinext ko pa kayo na pwedeng pakibayaran ako kasi kapag ito hindi ko napadala sa inyo ngayon at hindi siya tumakbo, collector's item na to. Ganun mas mahal.
Pa rin naman na ngayon. But James, we can roll the first slide.
Yeah.
Can you explain lang what happened and how did the movement, ang tawag nga dyan, the movement grow from the announcement?
We start, eto kapatid, and kung meron pong nakikinig sa atin na gustong mag-organize, hindi alam saan magsisimula, pero parang tingin nila merong dapat silang gawin. Yung sagot po doon ay meron po talaga tayong kayang gawin. Ang best experience po natin sa Dapat Si Lenny ay nagsimula po siya with a small group of friends. So si Roslyn, si Gian, kami po magkakaibigan na before. I think 90% ng convening committee ng Dapat Si Lenny walang political experience. So puro mga supporters, puro mga basbata in comparison to the established political machineries. So ito, as in, magkakaiba lang kami talaga ng backgrounds, pero alam namin kung saan namin gustong pumunta.
Bakit
in the country.
At tibay? Kasi that should bind us. No? Kung wala kang husay, paano ba yon? Kung hindi ka matibay, paano yon? So kailangan paghusayan at dapat tibay. No? So,
ako, kapatid, parang kung merong dalawang descriptors ang Pilipino sa mga hinahanap nila. Gusto nilang maging mahusay. Gusto rin natin maging matibay kasi tayo yung mga tao na we are the people na ang daming hinaharap every year. Typhoons, bad governance, pagkawala ng loved ones and everything. Pangalawa, nung nagkaroon kami ng pag-uusap sa Dapat Si Lenny, napansin namin na ito rin yung mga qualities na laging sinusubukang tanggalin kay ma'am. Kay VP.
Ganda naman. Yes.
Parang laging natin nakikita sa mga comment section, 40 times 4 equals 1,600. Or, I have 3 daughters and all of them are girls. These things are very, parang konting pitik asar, pero it chips off the third-party observer na, baka bobo to. Baka hindi siya marunong. Simpleng math.
You articulated it really well. Okay. And then,
alam natin na hindi yan totoo. Kasi kung merong pinaka-innovative na leader na meron tayo ngayon, it's Vice President Lenny Robredo. Dahil yung kanyang mga programa, those fill in the gaps of current policy making.
Pinag-isipan talaga. No?
Pinag-isipan talaga. So alam nating mahusay siya. Meron siyang history na mahusay siya. Kahit saan mo siya ilagay, wala pa siya sa politika, kasama niya yung vulnerable sectors, yung kahusayan niya nandun. Yung second na sinasabi against her, and sometimes nanggagaling pa ito sa mga iba nating mga kakampi, na ang tagal niya mag-decide. Mahina yung loob niyan. Hindi niya kaya yung mga mahihirap na trabaho. Pero sa amin, klaro na si VP Lenny yung pinakamatibay na national official na meron tayo. Kasi kung hindi siya yung pinakamatibay, ang tagal na niya nag-breakdown siguro dahil sa 5 years na siyang tinatroll. From all sides of the spectrum, tinatroll siya.
Even from our own ranks, no?
Even from our own ranks.
Mga erise na lumilipat. Yun yung isa sa mga...
ikaw nagsabi niya na, hindi ako.
Totoo naman. Ito yung interview niya eh. So,
diba? I mean, batawag dito, sinabihan nga, diba, lumipat yung mga iba nating kaalyado kasi natagalan daw sa kanyang mag-decide. Tayo, we trust...
Sinasabi mo, diba?
I defer to your judgment for that. Pero okay, so yung buong tagline ng Dapat Si Lenny, kapatid, ay mahusay na pamumuno, matibay na puso.
That's true.
Matibay na puso kasi siya
no? We never expected that she would say yes to that anti-drug czar.
Yeah. Yes, alam natin yan. At alam mo kung bakit matibay na puso, kapatid? Dahil mas matibay ang puso kaysa sa kamao.
Correct. Hindi kasing rupok mo, no? So, ano?
Oo naman.
Slide.
Okay, second slide. Batawag dito. Yung second slide. So right now, dapat si Lenny is 2,500 members strong. Ang ibig sabihin nito ay ito na yung onboarded volunteers natin.
Sabihin, ang konti naman, Jayson. Bakit yung sa iba? Parang milya-milya ng dami. Or dami na nilang na-organize.
Onboarded volunteers to, meaning na-engage na natin, nasa kanilang clusters na, meron sariling organizations. Meron pa tayong backlog ng I think around 4,000-5,000 kasi
how do you intend to engage them?
Dumadami yung ating community management teams also. Actually, yung dapat si Lenny, to be honest, parang nag-usap-usap na yung mga conveners. Paano natin to gagawin? The only efficient system that I could think of is the OVP system.
That's
parang
true. Pero hindi yata mangyayari yun ngayon kasi the OVP will just go on doing their task. So this is an additional...
No. I mean, so we created the committees for Dapat Si Lenny patterned with the OVP in mind. So we have communications, we have community management, research and policy.
Part mo doon.
Ako yung taga-welcome ng mga tao. Every orientation. Parang ganun. Pero I mean, okay. So the reason why I think
nangako na sa akin na next week guest ko yung counterpart ni Barry Gutierrez. So yun. So I'll be having that person next week and level up. Anyway, so
nice. But dito, I think yung naging problema, concern, challenge namin initially sa convening team, paano natin to pagsasabay-sabayin, i-organize lahat. Walang political experience karamihan, pero gusto nating makatulong sa kampanya. Hindi naman natin in-expect na lalaki. Hindi natin inasahan. Bigla na lang siyang nag-explode, kagaya nung after ng kampanya niya.
Yes.
Ang daming mga younger generations na talagang who are answering the calls of leadership. So we have like students, meron tayong volunteer, senior high school. Yung gumawa nung video na pinakita mo kanina, kapatid,
yes.
College student, second year.
Yun nga parang ako, kung dadaan niya ng advertising agency ang mahal-mahal. No?
Oo nga. Yun nga, pag every time nga na tinatanong tayo, magkano bayad sa inyo, ang sagot namin, kami pa yung abonado. Kami yung nagda-down payment for the collaterals. Pag na-stress tayo at bibili ng pagkain dahil sa volunteer work na to, pera naman natin yung lumalabas. But I think what sets dapat si Lenny from the traditional campaign team ay niyakap natin na dapat maging horizontal tayo as an organization.
So that's a challenge now, no?
Yes.
Okay.
And we welcomed younger people. Kasi kapag sinasabi natin, this is the fight of our lives, if parang pag hinahanap natin yung youth, hinahanap natin yung younger generations, if you say that this is our fight, then make us own this fight. Put us in positions that can decide the outcome of this campaign. Parang
so, dapat si Lenny is from what age to what age? Because we want to make that dichotomy so that they can volunteer in some other groups eventually.
Hindi, kapatid. Ngayon, na siya, hodgepodge. Yung first wave ng volunteers natin, may mga bata, may mga young moms, pero meron ding mga tao na veterano na ng martial law, nasa EDSA 1, nasa EDSA 2. Meron na kasabay ni President Duterte na taga Davao din, pero mas matanda na. So sobrang na siya, mixed na. But on balance, I think we attract around the 18 to 39.
Because they're the ones really committed and can have the stamina to reach hanggang the May elections.
Sana, hopefully, we also understand that we have to create a program for volunteer care kasi marami naman sa atin na first time mag-volunteer pero hindi rin alam ko ano yung ine-expect na toxicity in the campaign. So we have to be ready with that.
Let's ask Roslyn, how do you intend we keep the momentum until next year, Roslyn?
Ngayon kasi on fire talaga lahat because of the recent announcement.
That's true. Parang ngayon nga maganda kasi every week, hindi ko alam kung na plano to, pero parang may major announcement. And we have to keep that, no? Parang last week was the Senate slate. And now it's the additional the complete slate, the 12th dapat sustained at ang galing ng communication na merong inuulit-ulit na pag-ibig, pagyakap at yung pagdebate, parang ganoon. So how do we intend to keep the momentum until next year?
we have a lot of engagement programs for our volunteers, and at the same time, we also see to it that they feel at home with Dapat si Nelly. Yes, technically kasi with Dapat si Nelly, the main context is all about belongingness. So if you belong, technically you wouldn't want to go out of that organization. Kasi ang gusto talaga nila magstay. So sila mismo, even our volunteers would ask us, kailan yung next alignment meeting natin? What are the next programs? And we also see to it that kung ano yung gusto nila, sinasabayan namin. Like, nabanggit kanina ni Jayson that majority of the demographics na meron tayo is medyo mga young professionals and medyo youth. So ito yung mga gustong-gusto ng mga pakulo, like inuman, gusto ng mga quiz shows, and we give them that. Yeah. Kaya lang, we also see to it na it's a balance of what they also need. Katulad na nabanggit kanina ni Jayson na care programs for Lenny volunteers, and also we have mental health support programs. So with the diversity of the programs, and there are a lot of things that they are expecting to happen. At this point nga, yung empowerment na binibigay namin sa nating lahat sa volunteers, sila na mismo yung nag-iisip ng mga programa na gusto nilang ihain. Like, ate, can we do this? Or Jayson, can we have this? Yeah. So ganun ka-empowered and ka-engaged yung mga volunteers natin sa Dapat Sila.
So you don't mind having different, di ba, posters. Walang iisang di ba, kasi kanya-kanyang gawa, mas ini-encourage natin yung gano'n, no? The more
may kaunting alignment na yung brand elements. Pero ako personally, ayoko na magmukha siya na isang tao lang yung gumagawa all the time. Kasi magkakaiba yung style talaga ng ating volunteers, lalo na sa multimedia.
That's true. But Gian, ito na yung tanong ko. Are you okay to run on a positive campaign? Parang that's a pinaka now, how VP Lenny behaves is how we should all behave as people. Kasi that's the ideal, no? Pero paano na pag binabanatan ka, Gian? Hindi ka ba nakikita na umaalma ka rin?
Hindi natin may iwasan na minsan nakakapikon din talaga, no?
Ikaw yung nakakapikon.
Oo. Pero kasi sobrang ganda nung campaign na yung positive campaigning nga. Kasi after 5 years of this government, almost 2 years of the pandemic, yun nga, like what I've said, medyo may pagka-cynical na yung mga tao. And ang hinahanap natin ngayon is hope eh. Hinahanap natin is yung silver lining from this storm, di ba? So, campaigning for Lenny is like giving that hope to people na may makikinig sa kanila, na merong pag-asa after this, na may safe shores tayo, may safe harbor tayo after this storm. So, sobrang inspiring, and at the same time, sobrang kaya nga nai-encourage yung mga tao na mag-volunteer mismo kasi they see that hope. So, it's different from the other campaigns in the past years, pero this is, I think, one of the best, if not the best.
Ano yung gauge mo, Gian? Ito na, I'll push ano yung gauge mo na nagsasucceed ka or tayo sa ginagawa natin?
I think yung I would look at the conversion rate of Lenny Robredo. Like what I've said, si Lenny kilala yan online, di ba? Kasi palagi siyang pinag-uusapan since then. Pero kahit siya yung vice president, marami pa rin mga community sa laylayan, medyo hindi siya kilala. Or kung kilala man siya, just by name. Pero what she's doing, ano yung ginagawa niya para sa mga tao, maraming hindi nakakaalam. Mm-hmm. Pero once you talk to people, once you tell them ito yung ginawa ni Lenny, and then ma-realize nila, wait, I think sa tingin ko nag-benefit ako dyan, or sa tingin ko, yan yung hinahanap ko, ang bilis ng conversion rate. Sobrang likable ni Lenny.
That's true. So, question. Sorry, I'll push it and I'll ask our other friends here. Are you ready to lose?
Alam mo, one of our onboarding ng mga volunteers, may sobrang sobrang tinamaan ako doon.
Kasi emotional yan.
Sobra.
Matalo. Hindi ako handang matalo, kaya todo ako. Parang ganun yun, di ba?
Sobrang kasi yung may isa kaming volunteer na nag-share siya. Sabi niya, pag natalo si Lenny, I think i-consider daw niya na umalis na ng Pilipinas. She'll take the first opportunity to go outside the country. And volunteer is only 17 years old. So imagine
I can so identify. Sorry.
Imagine a child, di ba, losing hope para sa bansa niya and would decide na umalis na lang. I had to pause kasi parang sobrang parang I felt na yung generation mismo namin yung may responsibilidad na mag-iwan ng mas maganda para sa mga batang to. Parang ang sakit na yung mga kabataan na mismo nawawalan na ng pag-asa. So, am I ready to lose? I'll do my best para manalo, pero there's always that possibility, pero no, I don't think I'll be ready to lose. Not yet. Not at the moment.
I'm just so emotional with that. Roslyn, are you ready to lose? It's good. It's our a profession of commitment also, because parang we can't afford to. We really can't.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. Like what Gian mentioned a while ago. Ako personally, I cannot afford to lose. And at this point, I will give it my all. Yun yung usapan namin lahat sa dapat Seleni, especially the conveners, kapag nag-uusap-usap. Parang people will be telling us na paano pag natalo. Ironically, Sir Noel, that's the first time na na-ask yung question na are you ready to lose? Kasi yung mind frame ng lahat ng mga tao inside dapat Seleni is parang we are giving our all. And we are preparing to make history, that despite all of the things thrown kay VP Lenny, we hurdled, and at the end of the day, we came out victorious. So parang at this point, hindi talaga hindi talaga siya consideration. And the moment, I think at this point, the moment you entertain that thought, then doubt comes. So parang sa atin, parang wag na muna, i-all in na muna natin. Para
yung motivation ng ibang mga tao, when you ask that question, it can cause you to really think and commit, di ba? Parang really cannot afford to.
Yes.
Yun talaga yung doon. Jayson, ikaw, are you ready? You've lost battles with Pilo. Okay. But look, he's bounced back, and thank you for timing. It was in the news last Monday. Thank you. And then parang it was significant. No, but here, ang hirap matalo.
Am I ready to lose? I'm aware of the possibility of losing.
Okay.
But I can only be ready to lose if I gave it my everything. So, yes, I'm ready to lose, but I am more ready to fight.
Maganda naman yon. Parang binibigyan mo talaga ng ng soundbite si Mami. So what efforts do you need from our listeners and our audience and our mga kababayans in order to see these efforts that you've started? Paano? Yung marami nagtatanong, paano sila pwedeng sumali? Paano sila pwedeng mag-donate? It seems like parang people are just eager to make this people's campaign work. So, Gian, ikaw muna. From the communities, ano yung tinitingnan mong galawan in the next few days? And how can you take in more volunteers and how can they be more involved?
Ayun, I think habang lumalapit yung November 15 and then of course yung campaign. Of course, yung ibang mga kandidato dyan will try to show their own force. Will mobilize, diba? So, sa community who would like to support Lenny Robredo, of course, join dapat si Lenny. Visit yung page and mag-sign up kayo. You're more than welcome to help our initiative. Pero at the same time, kahit hindi ka sumali, yung makapag-convince ka lang kahit isa pang botante na alam mong hindi boboto kay Lenny or yung mga fence-sitter, malaking contribution na yan sa campaign eh. Yung kahit hindi ka parte ng mas malaking organisasyon, yung ikaw lang makatabi mo, tanungin mo siya sino iboboto mo, wala pang desisyon, ikwento mo bakit si Lenny yung iboboto mo, di ba? Ikwento mo kung sino si Lenny sa kanya kung hindi niya pa kilala. Yung ganong effort, mukhang konti, pero kung madodoble mo yung sarili mo to vote for Lenny, that's more than enough help from an ordinary voter.
Galing. Parang and be living witnesses, no, to what she's espousing and how we're all affected. Roslyn, ikaw, parang how else? So how else can people your age and at least your parang circle can help at this point?
Siguro yung paglabas doon sa Sir Noel, no, doon sa echo chamber na tinatawag. Kasi maingay tayo online. Totoo 'yun. Ang laki ng advantage natin in the online world, but at the end of the day, it's not a representation of the entire voting population. So at the end of the day, yun yung titingnan natin. Saan tayo mahina? At doon tayo manghihingi ng tulong. So katulad ng nabanggit natin kanina, parang bukod sa pagtulong or bukod sa pag-volunteer sa dapat sila, siguro maganda simulan natin yung diskurso sa mga kakilala natin. Simulan natin sa pamilya na pino-forward pa rin kung ano yung sinasabi ni ma'am na radical love. Napakahirap nun. Ako personally, kami ni Jayson, ay galing sa solid north. So, yun yung binabasag natin. And ironically, yung sinasabi nilang solid north ay hindi naman talaga solid. They are solid with the love dun sa country natin. Not solid about a particular personality. So, yun yung kailangan natin gawin. Also, siguro yung wag tayong matatakot na tumindig at isabihin kung sino yung sinusuportahan natin. Kasi, nagulat din kami dahil for the longest time, nasa backseat lagi yung supporters ni VP Lenny. Pero ngayon, maraming mga tao ang tumitindig dahil meron silang nakita na tumindig before them. So that's the kind of inspiration that we would want to give. Na parang huwag kayong matakot kasi nandito rin kami, katulad ninyo, kasama nyo kami hanggang maipanalo natin tong laban. So I think Sir Noel yun.
At saka yung sinasabi natin na, well, if we can do, it was a very successful parang meet and greet that we had with the Vice President the other day. Well, and then parang iba't ibang sectors. Yes. Na yung nakita ko mga kasambahay. Ini-enroll ko yung mga kasambahay namin, over 2,000 na raw. So parang kailangan pa the next. Sabi, if we can organize those, and kasi di ba Jayson, ang feeling natin parang Miss Universe, mapunta lang siya sa finals at mahawakan lang niya yung microphone.
Back Q&A lang siya.
Nanalo na
tapos,
diba?
kahit walang special awards, basta maka-Q&A lang, tapos.
Conversion, tama yung sinabi ni Gian, when people get to experience and see her sincerity through kahit nga konti lang sa salita, yun parang sumasapol. So Jayson, ano pang effort yung pwedeng ma-contribute ng mga tao?
Ako may 3 kong kapatid, no? For support lang kay Roslyn and Gia. The first is, and i-echo ko yung sinasabi ni ma'am, mas madaling makipagdebate. Kasi yun yung, mindset natin.
Kayo yung nagsimula dyan, no?
The need to be right must take the backseat with the need to understand why people are not yet our allies. So, yung conversation must come from understanding, kapatid. Nakita na natin yung resulta nito ng 2016. Nakita na natin yung resulta nito ng 2019. Ngayong 2022, ang obligasyon natin ay ibahin na yung conversation. Ito, ididiin ko, kapatid, lalo na sa mga supporters natin. Hindi po natin trabaho mang-educate.
That's true.
Hindi po tayo ang tagapagligtas ng mga kababayan natin na hindi natin kakampi. Pareho po nating mahal ang Pilipinas. Ang trabaho po natin ay hindi isama sila sa pangarap nating bansa. Ang mas mahalagang trabaho ay maisama nila tayo sa pinapangarap nilang bansa. So kailangan na nandun po tayo sa position of trust. And we will not be in positions of trust if the conversations make them feel like they're smaller than you, they're wrong, and they're the reason why we are in this situation. So dapat si Lenny, yung mga pro-Duterte supporters, yung mga Marcos apologists from the past, kapag nasa orientation, wala kang mafe-feel na, ba't nandito ka? Baka spy ka. Kasalanan mo, ba't nangyari to? Pag nandito sila sa dapat si Lenny, ang sinasabi natin, welcome home. Masaya tayo na nandito ka. So kailangan nilang maintindihan na meron po silang espasyo para magbago, para makasama sa atin, at para maintindihan nila tayo at maintindihan natin sila. Yung second, kapatid, so yung conversation talaga for me. Kasi facts, numbers, statistics, they mean nothing to people who don't trust you anymore.
That's true.
Parang belongingness is a force stronger than facts will ever be. So you have to make people know that they can trust us and we can belong with them, they can belong with us. Yung second is, start with your friends. It doesn't have to be grand. Kasi wala naman tayong grand ambitions for Dapat Si Lenny before. Nag-inuman lang talaga tayo. Tapos the next day, parang, baka pwede natin gawin. Nagkaroon ng 20 na volunteers after one day. After 1 week, nag-200. Tapos biglang, dahil hindi natin alam pa kung ano yung mga expertise na nagsimula tayo, but it just fit in properly as long as aligned. And we were operating in a position of trust. So I trusted the people I was working with. Baka start from there. Who are the people you trust? And baka yung conversation nung circle na to ay, what can we do to help the bigger fight? No egos, no ulterior motives, just what can we do to finally have a better government and a government that understands all of us. Tayong mga kakampi ni Leni Robredo at mas mahalaga yung mga hindi kakampi ni Leni Robredo. Yun yung kailangan. Yung pangatlo, kapatid, ay marami naman sa atin na gustong may gawin pero una, ang dami limitations. Trabaho, pamilya, ganun. Marami na pong volunteer organizations. Meron ng systems na inihanda, whether intentionally or unintentionally, for DSL. Talagang everything just fell into place. It became an environment of belongingness. So halimbawa sa DSL, naka-public po lahat ng merch. Pwede nang magpa-print. May message na lang sa akin. Pa-design nga ng collaterals dito sa Ilocos o kaya sa Isabela. So napapagawa natin siya within a day. Sana wag naman ako mabugbog ng messages after this. Pero meron na pong nakareding mga systems from our volunteer organizations. Dapat Si Lenny, wala siyang pera. Wala tayong binayaran, hindi tayo binayaran, minsan tayo pa yung abonado.
Totoo po yan.
Pero ang infra natin, husay at tibay lang. Husay ng volunteers at tibay ng mga volunteers. So, accessible po yung materials, pwede po nating ipaprint. Hindi ko alam kung ano yung direction ng kampanya, pero kung gusto nyo pong i-empower yung mga volunteer organizations, pwede pong mag-donate sa volunteer organizations to help them out. Para mas pwedeng tayo na yung mag-print ng collats, merong identified community si Gian at pwede niyang dalhin yung mga collaterals doon. Again, we're designing a system also kasi syempre, di ba, highest rated COA si Lenny, so hindi pwedeng hindi sumunod yung mga supporters niya in terms of accountability tsaka yung direction din ng official campaign team. Pero kung people's campaign po ang mangyayari for 2022, lahat po tayo kakailanganin lumabas sa ating usual ways. Maglalabas tayo ng pera, gagastosan natin yung collaterals, magpupuyat tayo, kakasulat ng pamphlet, pagde-design, pag-i-interview. Alam mo kapatid, ayoko talaga magpa-interview. Pero kung kailangan tong gawin para makahanap tayo ng mga tao na susuporta rin kay VP Lenny, gagawin natin, di ba? So,
natin, pwede mong ibigay yung mga designs and they'll be the ones to print. And then, yun po, kitang-kita natin, bumait po si Gary Granada na nagsasalita po sa atin ngayon.
Parang Noel Cabangan vibes ako, kapatid, more than Gary. Pero yan.
Ito, parang, what are you expecting in the next few days to happen? Like, kunyari, may mga motorcades tayong mangyayari within the week. And then, I guess, hanggang November 15, yun nga, yung Rigudon dyan. Pero how do we focus on the target? No? Parang, really, talagang yung pagpapakabuti, sobra talaga yung pagiging mas inclusive, yung pagpapakahusay pang lalo, na parang, kasi we might lose track in doing the basic things. And the basic thing is to pagbutihin pa rin natin na sarili, magiging mabait pa rin tayo. Pero the next few days will be moments will be agitated, no?
Yes. Hanggang 2022. Recently, Dapat Si Lenny launched 2 campaigns. Yung first ay yung Kakamping Tracker. Yeah. So para na siyang bingo, para alam na ng mga tao ilang posts ni VP Lenny ang shinare natin today. Ilan ang kinausap natin in an inclusive and respectful manner. So with that, meron din tayong Pinky Promise campaign. Okay. Ano yung Pinky Promise mo para sa kampanyang ito?
Okay.
Ano yung willing ka to go beyond? Because parang ngayon, alam natin, di ba, ang dami nating emails na these are extraordinary times, mga ganun. So, if these are extraordinary times, it will require our extraordinary selves and extraordinary efforts in order for us to win.
Kaya wag ho kayong magsasawa sa aming mga post. Timelines ng mga ganyang kaibigan. Roslyn, ikaw, how else can we battle this? And on your own, what are your efforts, personal efforts, in the next few days lalo na?
Siguro it's just a matter of commitment kasi it's the next couple of days, weeks, or months, feeling ko it's gonna be crazy. So, yun lang yan natin. Balik tayo.
Group, kapit lang talaga kasi we have each other to like do this. Yeah.
Kapit, siguro yun lang, suportahan lang, katulad nga ng ano natin, no? In a volunteer organization kasi syempre, you really cannot demand kasi at the end of the day, we're not paying anyone, katulad nga na nabanggit at laging sinasabi ni Jayson, we're not getting paid anyway, yung mga tipong ganyan. Pero siguro it's bearable and everything is bright because wala rin naman talagang kailangang i-remind. Everyone knows, horizontal yung organization, but at the end of the day, everyone knows what to do, how to contribute. Parang they capitalize on the things that they can offer, and at the end of the day, yun yung ano natin, doon tayo bumakbak. So yun, in the next couple of days, kapit lang tayo, palawakin pa natin yung network natin, and padamihin pa natin, especially yung mga wala pa talagang napipili kung sino yung presidential ba nila or sino yung iboboto nila. Yun yung kailangan nating i-engage through radical love. Laging sinasabi niyo.
Ang sakit nun kasi ang daming challenge yun talaga.
Yes.
Yun eh. Well, Gian, nasa yung responsibilidad yung pinaka-exciting kasi do we see you going back to the communities? Do we see you going there anytime soon? Kasi parang nandun talaga yung action.
Hopefully, pag medyo mas maganda na yung situation natin, yung quarantine restrictions, mas madaling tumalon ng probinsya.
Pero kapatid, batawag dito, like yung trabaho ni Gian, yung halimbawa, recently nagkaroon ng Typhoon Maring, di ba?
Yun yung pagtugon sa kanila.
Kapatid, the next day, meron na tayong teams sa Abra, Benguet, Ilocos Sur, Cagayan, and Isabela na ready. Na volunteers. Nag-call tayo for donations. Alam natin, because of travel restrictions tayong mga NCR, si Gian, di siya personally makakapunta. Pero dahil, una, horizontal yung organization natin. Pangalawa, clear yung vision natin. Pangatlo ay, meron naman tayong performance na pinakita na sa ating mga kakampings. Yung mga donations na napunta sa atin, mabilis na na-mobilize. Yung mga tao na hindi nila alam na may mga darating na tulong. Merong nag-viral na post, ang sabi niya, ipopost niya naman talaga kung sino yung unang politiko na makakarating sa kanya. Hindi niya lang in-expect na volunteers ni Lenny Robredo ang makakatuntun sa kanya, considering na sobrang layo ng kanyang volunteers. Ay, volunteer ng kanyang pinanggalingan. Sa Benguet, ang ginawa natin, nagpadala tayo immediate relief, pero dahil iba pala yung kailangan nila na immediately, like for example, gasol, lutuan, dahil nasa mataas silang mga lugar, dinala natin doon mga gasol at lutuan the next ride also. So talagang umakit tayo ng bundok na merong mga gasol. So etong ground efforts, important component din kasi niyan to create a community of belongingness and trust.
Correct.
So they trust our directions from the central. So yung mga volunteers na natin na nasa baba, ang bilis ng execution nila. Yung mga nasa Isabela, nagpunta pa ng Cagayan para magdala ng relief goods kasi in one day, natapos nila yung sa kanilang areas.
Galing. So nasa tono lahat. So Gia, parang it's really not top down, di ba? Yung pagpunta sa communities. And
also,
go.
If I may just add, yung sinabi ni Jayson, ganun nga, ang strategy kasi namin sa local communities sa pag-organize, yun nga, kasi ang dapat si Lenny is a horizontal organization. So hindi namin sinicentralize yung pagmamanage ng mga communities. We let them organize on their own. We empower them to make decisions
Galing.
na aligned sa dapat si Lenny, of course. And sila mismo yun, yung nangyari nga nung may bagyo, sila mismo yung nag-organize, sila yung nagsasabi sa amin ano yung kailangan nila, at the same time sila din yung nagsasabi ano yung kaya nilang ibigay habang nandoon. So mas mabilis yung pag-mobilize. Kasi importante na ma-empower mo talaga yung mga kalitiitang community. Kasi sila mismo yung nakakaalam kung ano yung pangangailangan nila, sila yung nakakaalam kung ano yung best way to approach their community members. Hindi naman kami na nasa malayong lugar, diba? Sila yon.
Parang hindi tone deaf, no? Parang nakaangkla palagi, nakabase palagi dun sa pangangailangan.
Nasa orientation yun, kapatid. Ang strategy ng dapat si Lenny ay nakaapak sa lupa, nakalublob sa puti.
Ganun talaga.
Literal. And Sir Noel, if I may add, naalala ko kasi yung ano natin, syempre di ba we work on a budget.
Yes.
Diba? Kasi syempre, depending on the donations that we get, yun yung ibibigay namin. Very, very heartwarming yung mga magbibigay ng donations na piso. Yung tipong sinisimot talaga nila kung magkano yung tapos meron pang mga message, pasensya na po, wala pa po kasing sweldo, pero sana po makatulong. Tapos yung partner naman natin na local community na partner natin na nandoon sa area talaga, magme-message sila na ito po yung nakuha nung nabili namin, pero ito po yung actual amount. Kami na lang po yung bahalang pumuno doon po sa kulang. Okay na po, huwag nyo na pong problemahin. So it's just the spirit of volunteerism and the empowerment, very, very alive talaga.
Parang, the pink isn't just the color, it's a movement, it's a goodness that's in all of us na kailangan lang palabasin. No? Parang yun, hindi kailangan ng kumpas. Kasi pusta, yun yung lumalabas. Ang hirap lang ng challenge to live up to it. Pero yun yun yung hinihingi ng panahon. If there's anything, salamat Jayson, salamat Rosin, salamat Gian. I know there's a great task ahead of us, pero yun nga, parang nakikita ko kayo sobrang parang may pag-asa. And yes, yung nag-resonate talaga sa akin. And we really can't afford to lose. We can't. And that is where we draw our commitment to make this work, to really make this work.
Yes.
We'll have more of each other. We'll see each other in the ground also. And I hope we inspire people to really commit to.
Kapatid, we can't afford to lose, but don't act like we've won already.
We can't be complacent. That's true. Amount, kailangan talaga na, grabe no, we grow our numbers. No, we're at what, 7, 8, 9? And that's a good trajectory. I don't know, is that
Well, yung last ngayon, 14 from yesterday. Parang from 7 to 14 within...
So nagdoble na.
Pero basta may study yesterday, padala ko na lang sa'yo after. Tapos
sana nasa news na. So maganda naman na nagdoble na tayo. So yun, maganda lang na paakyat. Yun lang siguro. And then kapit lang. Tama nga sinabi ni Roslyn. And in the end, kita-kita tayo sa ground. Yun, hindi sa bundok.
With social distancing, ha?
May pagbaba sa bundok. Maraming salamat, Roslyn.
Thank you, kapatid. Thank you.
Salamat. Thank you sa pag-invite.
Ang sarap lang kasi parang at the end of the day, pagkatapos ng isang napaka-busy na week, parang kumakapit tayo sa pag-asa at dun sa kahusayan at kabutihan nating lahat na nawawala sa proseso ng pagka-busy nating lahat, pero pwede at kayang mangyari. Maraming salamat. We'll see you again next week. Next week, I'll have the convener. Yun na ba yung tawag natin? The leader of our People's Campaign. Now, for us, she's always been the spokesperson that we loved. So we'll see her next week here on Level Up. See you next week. See you, mga kapatid Jayson, Rosin at Gian. Maraming salamat sa Level Up kasama namin ngayon. Thank you.
Rosas ang kulay ng bukas at pag-ibig ang magdadala sa atin doon. Pag-ibig ang magpapanalo sa atin sa labanan.
Di kailanman mapipigilan pagbuhos ng ulan. Ang buhay sadyang ganyan.
At kaya na
mabahala, huwag mataranta. Hindi kailangan ang mag-alilangan pa.
Isipin mo laging nandito lamang ang aking balikat, sa'yo'y nakaabang.
Asahan mo, hindi ka iiwan sa mundo. Lahat may hangganan, asahan mo. Wala nang atrasan sa iyong bawat hakbang na pupuntahan. Pangako kailanman, agad akong nandyan. Sang tawag mo
Tuwing nagdidilim ang langit, di ba't nagpapakita ang buwan? Hanggang mag-umaga na naman.
Tara't hintayin na natin magsikat ng iyong araw, hanggang sa magliwanag muli ang lahat. Asahan mo, hindi ka iiwan sa mundo. Lahat may hangganan, asahan mo. Wala nang atrasan sa iyong bawat hakbang na pupuntahan. Pangako kailanman, agad akong nandyan. Sa tawag mo asahan mo, hindi ka iiwan sa mundo. Lahat may hangganan, asahan mo. Wala nang atrasan sa iyong bawat hakbang na pupuntahan. Pangako kailanman, agad akong nandyan. Sang tawag mo lang. Sang tawag mo lang.
Mga katipuneros, it's time to level up! Your talk variety program showcasing the best in media and other fields as we feature the most loved personalities and the best practices of what we truly refer to as Magis. Together with multi-awarded multimedia guru Mr. Noel Ferrer, let's all level up every Fridays from 3 to 6 p.m. here on radyo-katipunan 87.9 FM.
Radyo-Katipunan. News, insights, inspiration. Radyo-Katipunan. Down from the hill and down to the world. Radyo-Katipunan. The voice of the Blue Eagle. Radyo-Katipunan.